Welcome back to Books, Tea and Biscuits with me, Jojo.
I'm Mick.
This is our September, and it is still September.
Yes.
We're doing...
We managed to catch it by about 3 days, haven't we?
Yes. So this is our September review. Sorry about the throat, I'm getting over tonsillitis stones, but I'm okay now. Because it's September, that makes it Agatha Christie's birthday, which was on the 15th of September. So we normally do Agatha Christie books and some detective novels, but because I've been ill, I've really not been well. And
you've read one at least and started
yes, I've read Sparkling Cyanide and started reading They Came to Baghdad. This I've never seen before. I found it in a charity shop, but I hadn't seen it before. And you've been sort of reading, you've read 1.5, haven't you?
Yeah, so I went to the library and I got 2 books out, but I've also read one on my e-reader. So I'll put the cover here. The one I read on my e-reader is A Pocket Full of Rye, which is a Miss Marple book. And then in the library, I got out Slough House by Mick Herron and The Big Four by Agatha Christie. I haven't touched this one, but because I've got until the 18th of October, I will read this one before October starts, because it won't take long, because that's a Poirot one. This one I've read half of, and purely, I'm not going to lie, I just haven't felt motivated this month. Not because, Joe's been poorly, I've just been unmotivated, but at the end of the video I will discuss what I have purchased to keep myself motivated, and then when that does come to my house I'll do a quick little video and show you what it is. I'll let Joe look at it first, but I've read half of this, and then I've read A Pocket Full of Rye, which is a Miss Marple.
Also, I lost Maisie this month, so she's not here anymore. So that didn't help matters much either.
No.
So I will do the review on Agatha Christie's Sparkling Cyanide. Now, this has been on telly as a television drama, and it's also been a film. Now, the film had Anthony Andrews in it, amongst others, and it was set in America. Now, that film is more like the book, because the television drama was, although it was set in England, it was to do with a football manager, which was wrong. He's a businessman, it's set in the UK, but everything that happened in the film almost is identical. So, but this book starts off a year after the death of Rosemary Barton. And her husband got these letters saying she didn't commit suicide, because that's what the court decided, that she committed suicide after suffering depression from a very bad horrible bout of flu and heartbreak. And he gets these letters saying, no, she didn't commit suicide, she was murdered. And he believed them. So he started going a bit funny. His sister-in-law, Iris, who had come to live with them, was finding it difficult to cope with her sister's suicide. He then points out these letters to her, and she then wonders whether it's true or not. As with the film, you've got Tony Brown and Anthony Brown, but his real name is not Tony Brown. It's Tony Morelli. Now, Tony Morelli works for the Secret Services. That's his function. And he's done undercover work, so he has actually been in jail. So he's got a record as Tony Brown being in jail. And he falls in love with Iris. He had an affair with Rosemary, but as soon as he saw Iris the one day walking down the stairs, that was it. He was jolted into his senses and realised that Rosemary, yes, she's lovely and all, but she's as thick as 2 bricks. You can't have a proper sensible conversation, and she's very high maintenance. And she was still having an affair with an MP called Stephen Faraday. His wife knew about the affair, but she pretended she didn't, so he thought she didn't, but she did. Now, when Rosemary, after Rosemary's died, and George goes and buys a house in the countryside next door compared to them is normally about a mile away, but next door to the Faradays, and they find that a bit weird because he's acting quite weird, and he decides to throw a party in exactly the same restaurant on the same table. Everybody who was there before has got to be there. Now, Colonel Race, as some of you will recognise, he's been in a Hercule Poirot things, Colonel Race, but he's a colleague of Chief Inspector Kemp. And he was invited because George Barton knows him, and he said come, but he couldn't come the first time when Rosemary died. And he says, when George tells him what he's doing, that he's got a plan to bring the murder out into the open, he says, I'm not going to be part of that. But he did turn up, but not at the table. He dined on his own, but where he could see. So he sees them have a drink, get up and dance, come back, toast Rosemary, and then he drops dead. George does. And that's when, obviously, the mystery starts, and they know that George was murdered. They just know. So it then goes on, and then they find out, it's near the ending of the book that they realise that Tony Brown isn't
Tony Brown.
Yeah, isn't Tony Brown, and also isn't a bad guy, because they thought he was a bad guy, you know, drugs and everything like that. And they realise that no, he's not a bad guy, and Colonel Race recognises him and says, "Ha ha, you're one of us, aren't you?" sort of thing. So that's near the ending. But if you've seen the film, you know what's going to happen in the book, but it is better in some respects. Everything, you can actually see, you can visualise it.
You get all the detail though, don't you?
It has got the detail, even to the point where Tony Brown realises what might have happened where the drinks were concerned, and it replays that, so that's good. The only difference is, instead of a water skiing accident, she's almost run over by a car, and that's literally the only difference, really. But yeah, I'd recommend it. It's a quick read. It is enjoyable. It's a typical Agatha Christie. You can always read, even when you know who's done it, you can read them over and over and over again. So, as always with Agatha Christie, I will always give her 5 out of 5 because I just think she's amazing. And this is a brilliant book. So, you know, quick read it when you're doing your laundry.
The one I'll review now is A Pocket Full of Rye, so I will put the cover here. The one I read was the edition with the yellow cover, and it said Marport and then A Pocket Full of Rye, and you saw the back of the, I'd say protagonist, obviously it's not because that's Miss Marport, the back of the guy that is killed at the beginning. So what it's about, and if you know the nursery rhyme, you'd think it was about that. It is focused on that, but it's not about that. So what happens is Rex Fortescue owns a business, and he's killed in his office. So the king is in the counting house. He's killed in his office.
Poisoned.
Yeah, it's poisoned with taxine, which comes from yew berries, so the berries from a yew tree. But it didn't happen in the office, it happened well before at breakfast with marmalade on the toast. I don't want to give too much of the plot away, obviously, but that's what the killer or the killers tried to ascertain, was the that people would believe it was about the nursery rhyme. So the king is in the counting house counting out the money, the queen is in the parlour eating bread and honey, the maid is in the garden hanging out the clothes. So all in all, within the story, there were 3 people that are killed: Rex Fortescue, Adele Fortescue, who is his second wife, and then the maid Gladys, who is found in the garden with a peg on her nose. But when Miss Marple comes into the situation, which is about chapter 12, I think, she realises that the murders happened out of sequence. So it was Rex Fortescue, but then it was Gladys, who was the maid in the garden, and then it was Adele Fortescue. But the way they were found, it looked like it was to do with the nursery rhyme, because Rex Fortescue was in Africa about 15 years prior to his death, and him and his friend, Mr. Mackenzie, well, I'd say founded. They found a mine called Blackbird Mine, and while they was there in Africa, Mr. Mackenzie died, and nobody knew how he died or where his body was, apart from what Mr. Fortescue had told them. So Mrs. Mackenzie obviously didn't believe him. She had 2 children, and she always made them say that they would get revenge by however means possible getting rid of Mr. Fortescue. But now this has come to bite him on the backside, because 6 months prior to his death, there was blackbirds in his pie. There was blackbirds found in his dresser drawer, I believe, at home, and then there was blackbirds found in his office desk as well. So the murder was the murderers tried to play it off as if it was to do with the nursery rhyme, but it actually wasn't. It was more to do with his son, Lance Fortescue, and his other son, Percival Fortescue, one being disinherited by the father, and the other basically being the father's favourite. But that's not how Agatha Christie's done the plot, the twist within the book. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give the plot away, but so what happens with the murders is Gladys, who is the maid at Yew Tree Lodge, which is where Mr. Fortescue and his family reside, she was taught how to be a domestic maid by Miss Marple, so she used to work for Mrs. Marple, and then she said to Mrs. Marple, I want to go out and I want to see the world. So then she left Mrs. Marple, obviously all good things, she didn't burn the bridges or anything. Miss Marple was happy to see her go. And then she started to work at like a holiday camp, but Gladys didn't like that, but she liked more private work. So then she got a job at Yew Tree Lodge, which is where Mr. Fortescue lived. But while she was working at the holiday camp, she got a boyfriend called Bert or Albert, but that's who she believed it was. When Miss Marple comes in, she finds out who Albert actually was, and Gladys was 2 shillings short of £1, I believe. So
she was a simple girl, wasn't
yeah,
she?
she was, but she didn't mean any harm. She wouldn't have hurt a fly. But she saw something that she wasn't supposed to see, and she told Mrs. Crump, who was the cook in the kitchen at Yew Tree Lodge, and obviously Mrs. Crump's husband was the butler, not a very good butler, but he was a butler, and Mrs. Crump knew that she knew something, but she wouldn't say what it was. She, on the morning of her being killed, she was all twitchy, and she couldn't get her thoughts out, she couldn't say what she wanted to say, she was really nervous about everything, and she had the tea tray in her hand, and she put it down because she went to look in the window, and she got beckoned outside, and then that was the last time anyone ever saw her. And then Mrs. Crump thought she'd just done a vanishing act, and she'd be back at 11 o'clock, which was when Gladys was always back if she went out. But it wasn't until later that night when the washing was still on the line, Mrs. Crump went out to get the washing off the line and fell over Gladys. So she was found after Mrs. Fortescue, which made it look like the king, the queen, the maid. But that's not how the murders occurred, because Gladys was, they believe, killed about 5 hours prior to her being found. That timeline then was before Mrs. Fortescue. So what happened, Miss Marple was working with Detective Inspector Neil, who was the police officer working on the case. She told him what her thoughts were, why she thought it was that, and then he had to prove that her story was correct, because he believed her, but it was hard to, because there was no evidence of it until they looked at financial records, until they looked at Blackbird Mine in Africa, which was found to be where lots of deposits of uranium were stored, and how that was to do with the Mackenzies, and was Miss Mackenzie's daughter estranged from her or not. So then you find out all of that and how these people were murdered. I really love Agatha Christie. It gets a 5 out of 5 from me. It's really gripping as well, because you think, oh god, it is to do with the nursery rhyme. There are blackbirds, the king, the queen, the maid, but then everything comes out, and Agatha Christie does her marvellous writing, and then all the twists and turns happen.
And the red herrings.
And the red herrings, and what you think, you're going down this one path and think, yeah, I know who the murderer is, it's going to be this person. And then you're like, how did I not see that coming? The red flag was on page 1. Do you know what I mean? And like, that's why I love to reread them, because I'm like, right, I'm going to think differently this time. And you still don't get it, even though you know what's going to happen at the end.
Because even though
there's lots of paths, isn't there?
even though you know what the ending is and you know who's actually done it, it's still enjoyable to read.
Yeah. And Miss Marple and Hercule Poirot are my 2 favourites. I know she does Tommy and Tuppence as well, and she does another one.
She does one where it's sort of like with Sparkle and Cyanide, you've got Tony Brown, you've got Chief Inspector Kemp, and you've got Colonel Race. So she does have ones where they're
not centralised around.
They're not the normal people that are used.
Yeah, but I love Agatha Christie anyway. I do want to read more where they're not centralised around Poirot or Marple, because I don't know them stories very well. I know the Marple and Poirot ones better. I am getting to know the Tommy and Tuppence ones a lot better, because I've started to watch a series on BBC.
Is that the one with Francesca Annis?
No, David Walliams is in it.
Oh, right.
I don't know any more prior to that, you see. Just
you don't know who plays Tuppence?
Yeah, she was in Downton Abbey.
Michelle telling me that,
Michelle somebody.
Oh, right. I never watched it.
Oh, okay.
Is it Michelle Riley or something like that?
No. I'll put the name here when I find out who it is, but I've not seen any others, you see. So the one I've started with is The Secret Adversary, but then you have got like Witness for the Prosecution, you've got others, which we did go to see, which you need to mention at the end of the video.
Tell you about that.
But I want to read more that aren't centralised around the 2 main detectives. Well, she's not even a detective, is she? She's an amateur sleuth. Miss Marple is, but Hercule Poirot is a detective, private detective.
Yeah.
So they're the ones I know mainly. I did go to the library and they were the ones they had. So obviously the big 4. I haven't read these ever before. I have seen the TV film with David Suchet, but I've not read the book. So I will continue to read this one, because it's the 27th today. Is it 28th? 28. So I've got 2 or 3 days. I've got tonight, and then I've got another 2 days. So I should be done. I've read this in 2 days, and then I'll take it back to the library before the 16th, because I can request that they get other books as well. So I'll have a look.
You can also ask them to extend it if you need to.
Yeah, I don't think I will do, because I do want to read others.
Yeah.
Like I said, I want to get more familiar with the standalone ones, let's say. But and then I'm going to print off an Agatha Christie reading list that mentions all of her stories. I'm going to tick off what I've read, and I'm going to try and focus on the ones I haven't yet read. Okay, so if you're happy to do that, we can do that for about 2026. Okay, because we've got a couple of ideas for the next couple of months. So this one won't be mentioned in this video as a review, but I will mention it, if it's okay, as a quick review in October. Okay.
My next one, I didn't read all of it, is Agatha Christie's They Came to Baghdad. I've never seen this book before. I've never flipping heard of it before.
Me either.
And this one is obviously set in Baghdad. And it starts off, you've got a chappie walking through a certain area of Baghdad. He's stout and red-faced and everything. And people imagine that he's a chap in charge, and he goes into these offices that are a bit dilapidated, and he meets up with this other guy, Mr. Deakin. And Mr. Deakin's sort of, low-shouldered and skinny and whatever, looks worried all the time. They shut the door. Now, the door to this office is a special door. There is no gaps, and when the door's shut, it's soundproof. And so they can then start having their secret conversations, because they work for the secret services. Nobody knows they work for the secret services. Then they're discussing the Prime Minister or somebody in charge, maybe the President, coming to Baghdad, and they're sort of really worried about it, because they know that the powers that be that want to get rid of him will know he's coming, and you know that they've got to think of all the ways of protecting, and there's somebody that's found out some secrets and he's trying to get back to them so they could get into the UK, and they know that again their enemies know he's around, so they just keep killing anybody that looks like this guy. And there's a bank, and there's the PA, and she's an amazing PA. She knows everything. She doesn't have to look at notes, she doesn't have to look at the diary. Once she's looked at the diary, it's all in there. So she'll say to her boss, oh, you've got this meeting at such and such a time, we've got to meet so and so at such a time, we've got to go here. And she knows everything, and she's so amazing. She has the office running like clockwork, and she asks him out the blue, she says, I've got to have 3 weeks off now. She never has time off, and she asks him for 3 weeks off, and he's sort of a bit taken aback by this, and he asks her why. You know, it's going to be really, really difficult with everything that's going on. Why? And she says, well, my sister has got to have a serious operation and she wants me there. And he's thinking, she never told me she had a sister. And she's worked for him for like near on 15 years. And he's going, you never told me you had a sister. She's got to have a serious operation and she wants me there, and I need to go back. So he says, well, hurry back as soon as you can. So her name is Anna Shale, and she goes to the UK, and straight away, once she's got to the UK, you find out she's being followed. She gets this taxi, and there's another taxi, and a dark gentleman, dark-haired or a dark gentleman, whatever, gets in the taxi, and the taxi is following her taxi. There is a sedan or a large car, a standard car, and a young woman gets in that car and they're following, so it's like a convoy. And she gets out of her taxi, Anna does, and she goes into a jewellery store. She goes into a high-end jewellery store, and she's having a look, and she's getting a necklace, and this woman gets out of the car, goes into the jewellery store, pretends to look at some brooches. Then when Anna goes out, she decides, no, I don't like them, can't make up her mind, and she follows her. And this goes on, sort of cat and mousing. Now Anna doesn't realise she's being followed, and she gets kidnapped. In the meantime, there is a young girl in the UK, in England, named Victoria Jones. And she's the world's worst secretary. She's absolute rubbish. She doesn't take her job seriously, she messes about, and she lies a lot. But she doesn't do it maliciously. It's just sometimes she doesn't think she's important enough. So if she's late for work, which is 9 times out of 10, she's constantly late for work. Instead of sort of saying like other people would, my alarm didn't go off, my watch stopped, which invariably her watch always stops, or the buses, which we all know how bad buses are, she don't say that. She'll say the first one was an elephant collapsed in front of her. Was one little reason why she was late for work. The other one was she was a witness to a robbery and she helped the police catch them.
Okay.
So it was stuff that was sort of just, you know, obviously you think nobody could make that up, so they tend to believe it. They might believe it with tongue in cheek, but they couldn't really call her a liar. Now she doesn't take her work seriously. She's very rubbish at what she does. She can't spell. She's a rubbish shorthand and typist, and she really doesn't care. And this one particular afternoon, her boss is out and she's entertaining the rest of the staff, not that it's a very big office, but the rest of the staff, by impersonating the boss's wife, the director's wife. And she's doing this impersonation, and all of a sudden he comes back, they start working, she turns around, he's there, he realises what she's been doing, calls her into the office, and he's counting out the money, and he's saying, is there any reason why I shouldn't sack you? And she says, no, I think it's a very good reason. I don't, you know, fair enough, sort of thing. So he gives her her week's pay, minus 9 pence. 9 pence, that is old money. Which she said, that's fine, forget about it. And she takes that and asks him for a reference, and he does a really, really rubbish reference for her. He says that she's always late, she can't spell, she's a lousy shorthand typist, all these nastiness, and she's going, that's not a reference. I'm very discreet. And he realises that he's had her take letters down for his lady friends, so she's sort of blackmailing him. So he does this other reference, which isn't brilliant, but it's okay. And she's sat in a park having a bit of lunch, and there's this chappie on another bench who's eyeing her up, and she sees him out of her peripheral vision and thinks, oh, he looks nice. He comes over to talk to her, eventually sort of says, I've got to go to Baghdad tomorrow. Can I have your picture? So he takes a picture, a profile and a front, and goes off his merry way. And she thinks, oh, I'm going to go to Baghdad. Because she likes this chappie. And she's decided she wants this chappie. And she's got nothing in this country. She's got no job. And she thinks, oh, it'd be interesting to go to Baghdad. So she decides to go to Baghdad. And what this guy does, his boss is obviously working for the Secret Services, as is he. And this Anna Shale was one of them, and they need her for some special meeting, and she's gone missing. So they decide they need somebody, and this girl just so happens to look like her. So much so that she would only need a little bit of makeup and maybe a wig or something like that, and she's her. You wouldn't tell her even the right height, bone structure, the works. So that's why he took a picture, so he could show his boss. So she ends up going out to Baghdad, but not for what she thought. That's as far as I've got. I will finish it and let you know. But what I've read so far, it's a bit funny. It's unlike most Secret Service things where you tend to think, what the hell's going on here? And you have to keep reading the same thing. You don't with this. It's quite simple. Those are the baddies, those are the goodies, you know. So it's easy to follow, but it is quite good, you know.
Yeah.
So I will finish it, and I dare say, I mean, even now I'd give it a 5. I would, because it is really, really funny in parts, and I'm just intrigued to know what happens at the end now.
Good, I can't wait to hear about that one. You go.
Have you got half or one?
Yeah. So this one, Joe's going to like this one.
All right.
Talk about Secret Service. This is Slough House by Mick Herron, and I picked this up because 3 years ago I started to watch the TV show, and I watched a TV show not knowing there was a set of books.
What TV show?
It's called Slough Horses.
I've not watched telly since March 2016.
So I started to watch this TV show called Slough Horses, and I was intrigued. Like, I binge watched, I think, 3 series in the space of a month, I think, and I've got other people hooked, and I've had to wait now 12 months for this new series to start. So I went into the library and I thought I had a few, so I picked up Slough House. Not because I've never read the books before, not realising that this is book 6.
But does it matter, or is it one that you could have as not exactly a standalone book, but it doesn't matter if it's out of sequence, like with
No, I think it does, from what I can tell.
Oh, right.
But I only know parts because of the TV show, but again, this goes into more detail. So I'll just give you a background into what I know from the TV show. So it's called Slough Horses. So, but they operate out of Slough House. So do you know what a slough is? So basically a swamp or bogland. And it's basically because they are all MI5 agents that have made a mistake or made not very wise decisions in certain cases. So they're MI5 rejects, but they're operating out of what's called Slough House. Now, from the outside, it looks like any unassuming office block, but on the inside, you've got MI5 agents. The lead agent being Jackson Lamb, who in the TV show is played by Gary Oldman. Yeah.
So, apart from being rejects, they're still employed by the government.
They're still employed,
because even though they're rejects and rubbish, they must be good at something.
Yeah, so what happens is the head of MI5 Diane Taverner, gives them all like the rubbish cases that she thinks they're not going to be able to sell, the ones that where if it's like detrimental to the UK, for instance, or the government, she can blame it on them. But what she doesn't know is, yes, Jackson Lamb has made some very unwise decisions, but he's really good at his job. No, this is book 6 of,
Right.
I think, there's going to be 10 or 11 books in the series.
Okay.
So what happens in this one is, so one of what Jackson Lamb called one of his Joes, so his agency calls them Joes.
Yeah.
One of his Joes is called River Cartwright. River Cartwright is kind of the person where he's got a hero complex. He always tries to be the saviour. The one that he tries to be a standalone saviour, so he tries to save the day. Not knowing that Jackson Lamb's probably already thinking 2 steps ahead of him.
Right.
And Jackson Lamb's always there to save the day. Anyway, River Cartwright, his grandfather, who's been very, his confidant, he's close in his family, who we would call the person that mainly brought him up. He used to be an MI5 agent and he was really good at his job, but he's got secrets that River Cartwright doesn't know. And the case that they're working on in this book is to do with like Russian intelligence, and the head of that operation turns out to be not quite the KGB. He's an American, but he has like Russian soldiers working for him.
Okay.
And he finds out, all I've got up to is he finds out that the head of this operation is his actual father, and his father had taken in, because he takes like in young women to try and help them, but he does things to them, not like naughty things, because it's not that kind of relationship, but he befriends a lot of the women he takes in, marries them or gets in a relationship with them, and he's River Cartwright's father, and he doesn't know that yet.
So he's a philanderer.
Yeah, philanderer. But Jackson Lamb already knows this, and you wonder, like, hang on a sec, but you don't know how intelligent this guy is. Like, he's already 2 or 3 steps ahead, and he already knows what Diane Taverner's going to do, because again, even though he works for the MI5, he's not allowed into the central headquarters. He has to so I'm just trying to remember how he gets in now, not in this book, in the TV show series before this one. So he drives in, he's smoking. Jackson Lamb's kind of like a tramp. He looks like a tramp, smells like a tramp, acts like a tramp, doesn't have anywhere to stay, so he sleeps in his office, he doesn't shower, he's a pig, he always has alcohol and things like that, but he's really good at his job. So he goes in his vehicle to MI5 headquarters. He gets stopped at the gate, he's smoking, and he won't tell them anything, and goes, I'm going to speak to your boss, who's Diane Taverner. And they said, no, and he goes, well, I'll stay here, smoking in your face until you get me Diane Taverner. And she comes out, gets him, but arrests him, puts him in handcuffs, and he gets in. But that was his plan all along, because one of the agents working in there has uncovered secrets that he needs for his case. But she's not Diane Taverner, but the other agent has told him that, well, I've got this passport, it's not mentioned in any of the books in Diane Taverner's cases. And then Jackson Lamb realises, hang on, she's up to something. And then I don't know anymore because I haven't read any more of the book, but it's so good. It is good, Joe. You need to start reading them, because
I'll have a look in the library.
I'll just quickly read the
synopsis
to you. So, Slough House, the crumbling office building to which failed spies called the Slow Horses are banished, has been wiped from Secret Service records. So again, on the outside, it looks like an unassuming office building. It doesn't say this is MI5, it doesn't say Slough House, but in the headquarters, if you get banished to Slough House, you've done something wrong. Reeling from recent losses in their ranks, the Slow Horses are worried they've been pushed further into the cold, and fatal accidents keep happening. With a new populist movement taking hold of London streets, the aftermath of a blunder by the Russian Secret Service that left the British citizen dead, and the old order ensuring that everything's for sale to the highest bidder, the world is an uncomfortable place for those deemed surplus to requirements. The wise move would be to find a safe place and wait for the troubles to pass. But the Slow Horses aren't famed for making wise decisions, and this story is an example of that.
Sounds good.
So, and I just wanted to show Joe, in the beginning of his book, I saw this and I thought I've got to read this just because I saw this.
For Joe.
For Joe. So, and it's number 4. So yeah, I want to read them in order. So if I just go to the back of the book, it just does tell you the order. So you've got Slow Horses,
Yeah.
Dead Lions, Real Tigers, Spook Street, London Rules, Joe Country, and then Slough House. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
But
7.
if you look at it, SH,
yeah.
so it's sort of starting and
So I didn't realise when I picked it up. I thought I'd picked up book 1, being called Slough
Yeah.
House. I thought this was, but then looking, Slow Horses is the first one, and it tells you how they became Slow Horses and what Jackson Lamb did to become the manager of the Slow Horses. But it's really good. From what I've read so far, I'm going to give it 5 out of 5.
Oh wow.
But I want to finish reading it
yeah.
because it's so good, and it's I don't usually like espionage or books about espionage, but this is really good, and just because I've seen the TV show and know how much that grips me, and when he put it on, my boyfriend, I was like, I don't think I'm going to like that. I'll put it on, let's try it, and then I was like, oh, it's so good, but they couldn't have chose any better actor than Gary Oldman to play
brilliant.
Jackson Lamb. And I'm
brilliant.
like, it's really good. So when I do read it, I envision him in the character, but I think from the description, that would be the envision I'd get anyway.
Oh, right.
The visualisation is of him.
Oh.
So yeah, it's really good. You should see if your library's got them, Joe.
Yes, I'll have a look and see if my library's
He's
got them.
currently writing, from what I believe, another 2. One to be released this year, one to be released in 2026. I don't know if that will be the end of the series, and I don't know what the fate of Jackson Lamb and the Slow Horses will be, whether they take down MI5 and the corrupt agents within that. But I know from what's happened previously, from the other 6 books, it does have to do an inside. Someone has to do an inside job.
Ooh,
so it's really, really, really good. I can't wait to finish that. If you have read any of the Mick Herron books, please let me know down below. And if you like Agatha Christie, let us know which ones your favourite are. Okay. So yeah,
we did mention that we went to see the Agatha Christie play.
do you remember what it was called?
Witness for the prosecution.
Yeah.
Now, we were on the jury,
Yeah.
so we had to sit in a jury box on the stage and look very attentive at the judge, very
Write
attentive
down.
at
I
everything.
think I'm going to get my little notebook out as well.
Yeah, we had
I think
little
I've got it.
notebooks and pens given us so we could write out stuff
I think
from
I've got
when
it,
the
yeah.
case was started,
There's a
what the
little pen.
prosecutor said,
Where's my
and what the
notebook?
defence said, and what the witnesses said, and when the judge spoke to us directly. That's the little book. Ta-da!
So you got a little book and a little pen to write our notes down.
Yes, and what we didn't have was, like in most court cases, the jury go off to deliberate. We didn't have that.
No, because obviously the decision's already made. But
What they did was we had to write down what we thought, whether we thought they were guilty or not guilty. She then took the books off us. No, we wrote it on a piece of paper, and she took the papers away and counted how many of each, and then she gave you a card that either said guilty on it or not guilty. Didn't she?
Yeah, and then you was the foreman of the jury, wasn't you?
I was foreman of the jury. So,
I had 5 minutes of home there, Joe.
yeah. Although I did say to Kim, and I think Kim agreed with me, we thought he'd done it, didn't we? But even though we thought he'd done it or he was involved in it, and his wife was involved in it, we couldn't see how, so we put not guilty. And we were right, and we should have stuck to what we thought.
Because there wasn't enough evidence,
No.
circumstantial evidence, and I'm always of the belief, especially if you go into jury service, if you've got doubt in your mind,
You have to say not guilty.
yeah, you have to say not guilty.
And even though I thought his wife has something to do with it, and I'm sure he's probably got something to do with it, I couldn't, in all honesty, so I talked myself out of it.
Yeah. I just saw Jo writing. I'm like, how many notes is she taking? I believe she filled half of her book, I believe. I've done quite a few pages, but I was just doing like bullet points and things. I think I've done 12 pages, But Joe was just writing and writing, and I'm done now, but I've done 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 pages in mine.
I think I went past the
The
middle.
centre,
I went past the middle. So
I'm
I don't
keeping
really
mine
know.
to put it in,
How many.
like a junk journal or something, like a scrapbook.
I'm going to put it in a scrapbook after. But it was
Yeah.
really, really good. The play was. It was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I
Really enjoyed it.
wish we had time to go and do more stuff like that.
Yes,
But
it'd be good if we could
yeah,
go back to.
we've been saying for a long time that we really want to see the Mousetrap,
Oh God,
which is the longest running. I was going to say serving then.
Yeah.
Longest running play, not only on the West End but ever in the UK, I believe.
Yeah.
Right?
We missed it when it came to the Alexandra.
Yeah, or the Hippodrome, I think it was on. Because we would have gone then, but I'd love to see it in the West End.
Yeah.
And I think when I go, I will kind of dress in that kind of attire. But it's just finding the time and having the money to obviously get there,
it's quite
stop
expensive, isn't
overnight,
it?
buy the ticket, come back.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to drive to London because parking there is extortionate anyway. But yeah, that's our plan. We've been saying for a long time. So this year we will make it. We're gonna make it our priority that we try and save for that as well.
Yes.
So
Now,
yes.
I've got my calendar because in October I've got a lot going on.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
I've got a lot going on. I'm going to Newport on the 8th and I come back on the 20th. Then I'm going to Bromsgrove on the 22nd, going to Swindon on the 30th, Swindon. And then in November it's not so much. But October,
Captain Space shows.
mostly.
Okay.
5 Cats in Space shows, but I've got 4 in October, and I've got me Justin Hay. No, 5.
Are the shows all the same? They sing all the same songs?
Well, because it's their 10th anniversary, no.
Okay.
Each show will probably be a little. They'll probably put in a different song. Might take one song out and put a different song in, or something like that. But they're just really, really good shows. And you get to see the guys afterwards, and they're brilliant and lovely and hunky and nice. And so are their ladies. Their ladies are lovely as well. So I'm going to Wimborne, then Lincoln. I'm going to York just for a jolly. Then we're going to Hexham and Stockport. And then we're going to Cardiff to see Justin Hayward. And then I come back on the 20th, and then I go to Bromsgrove to see Cats in Space again. I go to Swindon to see Justin Hayward, and then I'm going to see Justin again
At the Town Hall in Birmingham.
at the Town Hall in Birmingham, and in November, and then I'm going to see the Trends. Now, those of you that remember the 60s will remember the Tremolos. Now, they're still going, but there's also it's not a tribute band, not really, because the Jeff Brown was at the Tremolos for a little while, I believe, and he's in the Trends, and they do the Tremolos songs, obviously, and they're in Swindon in November, so we're going to see them. And we're going to see Quill with Bev Bevan and Joy Strachan-Brain, and then we're going to see the Australian Pink Floyd, who are brilliant, incidentally, and then we're going to see Miss Saigon, which I've never seen. I'm looking forward to that. And then we're going to see Jeff Brown again, who's in the Trends, and he was in Sweet for 23 years, and he's in the original Jukebox Heroes, and he's lovely, and he's coming to Cardiff. And then that's it for October.
So
I will be taking a book, because wherever I stay I'll have a little read. So, I will be able to do the October review.
yeah.
With
Okay.
an actual proper review.
No, that's fine. As long as you've got one, then that's fine.
Yeah, I'll be able to do that. But I
That's
thought
good.
I might mention it just to show you how busy I'm going to be in October.
That's fine. And then, yeah, as long as you just keep me updated on how you're
course
getting
I will.
on, and just let me know what you're doing
Yeah.
and how your concerts are going, and that'll be good.
Yeah, of course I will. Of course I will.
And then the last thing I wanted to mention was, obviously I mentioned that I've not been very motivated this month. Obviously, you know, we both like reading, but there are times when you don't get into what like a slump, but you just don't want to pick up the book. So what I've brought myself is like, and this is a type of thing that always keeps me motivated. So I've brought what's called an adult star chart, and when you've done, I don't know, you have your goals and your plan, read 30 minutes a day or something, you give yourself a star.
Okay.
And then when you get to the end of the week, you give yourself a tick. And then I think it's a 6-week star chart. And then within 6 weeks, I should have read, if my plan's correct, a book and a half. Or 2 books or something.
Well done.
Yeah, so that will keep me motivated because I get a star at the end of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to see how that goes. I will do a quick video to show you, and then I'll upload it. So I'll unbox it. So you get silver stars for days you have rest, and mine will be on a Wednesday. I won't read at all on a Wednesday unless I take my book to work. And then gold stars for the days you do read, and you give yourself a gold star. So on the days you rest, you do put the star on, but it's a silver star. That just tells me I haven't read on that day. So then I can count up. I can count at the end of the month or the end of the 6 weeks how many days of that 6 weeks I've read, and then I can calculate total. Could be 6 hours, 7 hours of reading a book, or probably more. So that's what I'll do. So when you reward a kid with a star chart.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see how that goes. It might not work for me, but I've brought it. I'm going to try it.
See
and then there's a new book journal been released. My other ones have been filled, so I am in need of a new one. By a shop called Flying Tiger, which is in town.
Oh
in
yeah,
Birmingham City
Flying
Centre.
Tiger. There was one in Sutton, but it's not there now.
Yeah, so the one in Grand Central in Birmingham, I believe they've got 2 different journals. There's one that can fill in 100 books, and then there's a giant one, you can do 1,000 books in that one.
Ooh.
So don't know what the price difference is. I'll have a look. But if I buy the 1,000 one, that'll probably
Let
keep
me
me
know.
going for a while. And Jo will fill that within a year probably. So. On the month she's not at concerts, I know that she's read 8 or 9 books for a month. But we'll see, and we'll keep you updated. So what I'm going to do while Jo's while Jo's away in October, I'm going to be doing little videos about the star chart and keeping you updated. And when it comes to the end of October, we'll do our monthly book reviews. So that's everything I wanted to talk about. Anything else for you?
No, I don't
No.
think there is.
So we hope you're all okay. We hope you have got plans for Halloween, and let us know down below what kind of books you're reading.
Bye.